Hello everyone, good evening and thanks for joining in. This is Vimal, your host for the evening. Please try to keep your video on during the session. Today we have Mr. Ankit Goswami here who will be sharing his thoughts about growth hacking to us. I'll be introducing him in a while. This workshop is organized in association with Navkiran. Navkiran is a mentorship platform run by alums of MBA colleges like NMIMS Mumbai, IM Ahmedabad, SPJN, and so on. Navkiran started as a few individuals came together to set up a platform to handhold and mentor students in these uncertain times. However, the same has now taken the shape of a movement with thousands of students benefiting from the time dedicated by hundreds of working professionals, the torchbearers of Navkiran. The mentors at Navkiran are part of the largest corporates across diverse industries with diverse experience. With MBA degrees in marketing, finance, consulting, operations, and HR, each of our mentors carry a different yet resounding perspective about MBA, an amalgamation of which we believe would be optimum knowledge for aspirants aiming to clear MBA with flying colors. Talking about our speaker for the day, Amdi Ghaziabad is honored to virtually host Mr. Ankit Goswami. He is a product marketing and growth leader at Airtel X Labs. He is also an IIM Bangalore alumnus. Mr. Ankit Goswami has worked across organizations spanning across several sectors such as Aditya Birla Group, Amazon, Ericsson, and is presently working at Airtel. Ankit is a mentor at various platforms like Kinobi and Navkiran. He is also a blogger at Growth Ninja. Welcome, Ankit, and over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for the introduction, Vimal. I will actually, spend maybe another 35 minutes, giving a bit of a monologue, and then I'll actually open the floor for questions because I want to keep this very interactive. It's a very new field typically, and, I generally start off from this sort of a cartoon strip because it kind of sums up it a bit. But let me just, proceed with the agenda itself. So typically, when I talk about growth hacking, it's a very polarizing topic. Why? Because it's not hacking actually, like it is we're not talking any shortcuts or hacks. It is a growth marketing typically. It's a very, I would say a pristine or a beautiful form of growth, which is growth marketing or product marketing. So, in this session, typically I will be covering three parts. One is basically what growth marketing is, because I assume that many of you might not be familiar with product analytics or product marketing. So I'll spend some time explaining to you what it is all about. I'll explain that how this process typically works. And some of the big firms like Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc., they have a very core dedicated teams on growth marketing as well. So, it is one career which is flourishing across all tech giants, across all the SaaS firms which you look at, and all the firms which have, been affected during pandemic when they kind of made a digital transformation. They were forced to bring in the product mindset. That's where a product growth person also comes into picture, because that person is driving the revenue for that specific product. So I will be concluding this session with the most relevant part for you guys, which is around that how, if any one of you who actually will be interested to pursue a career into product growth marketing, then how you can actually build one. I mean, what are the kind of skill sets you can build into it, right? So now, what this growth marketing is, I mean, like it's a fancy word. It is called, sometimes called as product growth marketing. It is sometimes called as growth hacking. There are many terms to it, but it is something which over past several years has trumped your traditional marketing in big ways. What it has done is, like it has focused on driving demand and retention typically, rather than just focusing on building awareness and acquiring customers. So it actually goes deep dive into the entire bits of the customer journey, rather than just stopping at acquisition stage. Because typically what it used to happen in traditional marketing was that you spend crores of budget in doing TV advertisements, doing BTLs, etc., but there was no very conclusive way to measure everything, right? And they used to just stop their job right at the stage of acquiring customers, and it was done. But growth marketing goes a step beyond, and it actually consider retention as the single most metric to kind of get more customers in. And I will be talking it in some great details with you guys, that how retention becomes a very important strategy. And I will be giving you a lot of live industry examples, how they have turned around the growth for their respective firms, what they have done so far. And why this typically marketing, is really turning out to be a very efficient way to really drive growth at very, shoestring budgets. So what product marketing essentially, like how it works. I mean, I will be, breaking this into 3 or 4 slides to tell you. To begin with, it is all about, driving the demand of your product. What essentially it means is that in a very particular sense that you, unlike traditional marketing where the product was already made and given to you and you have to just now create the awareness and acquire customers, here you actually are the part of the product process. So sometimes it is called as product led growth. What essentially here we mean is that you have to first of all understand that even if there is there a buyer out there who has certain latent demands or latent needs which you can translate into user experience or product features. Once you identify that, then you try to identify that, okay, what is the kind of right positioning you want to give for such kind of a customer. And once you have achieved that, then we actually say that you have achieved product market fit. I will be talking about it in a while. Once you have done that, then you will be running a lot of experiments just to ensure that customers, there is a right fit of your product value with the customer. And that in essence will help you to drive revenue growth, right? This is the whole core of product marketing. But yes, there are several stages to it, which again, I'm coming to you in next few slides. So growth marketing typically is a very, very data driven and very, very iterative process. As you can see over here, there are like 6 steps to it. What it simply means is that when, let's say you are a company, let's say you are a startup and you are a product marketer over there, then in that case, your immediate job is to identify that whether this product will be having takers or not. So then you are trying to solve the problem of product market fit. That you will do in these 6 steps. Let's say you are a company like Airtel, which is already in a very mature stage, and now it is all about product proliferation, or you want to go in depth. Then these steps will help you carve your hypothesis for specific campaigns that you want to run to improve retention, reduce churn, improve, let's say, engagement in the app, so on and so forth, right? So what are these 6 steps? Step 1 is that if, let's say, again, if I consider that you're a startup, then you want to make hypothesis, some hypothesis about your customers, that what do they really want, what is their underlying need. If there is a brand recall, then of course, there is less effort to be put in over there. But then if it's a new product, then obviously your hypothesis will take certain shapes. You will conduct experiments on the campaigns across several channels. Then you will analyze that data. You will collect some lessons from that data, and you will see that, okay, whether that feature is really working for or not. You will refine this until you reach that stage where you have identified those product features which are exactly matching with the market that you are trying to. That's where you say that you achieved product market fit. In case of the scaled experiments, you simply look at that, okay, you're looking at certain cohorts, you want to test out certain hypotheses that, okay, this customer, there is certain retention problem, and you want to conduct experiments to identify how you can solve it. Again, you will follow the same chain, and this process is iterative. You always have to measure your results, and there are several tools to do that, which I will again touch upon in coming slides. So a growth typically, I mean, like if I say a product growth manager, the part which we call as growth doesn't happen right at the beginning. It happens only when you have achieved that product fit, and that's where your strategies changes as a growth manager. So what product market fit essentially is, it is something where you try to understand your target customer. First of all, who you want to target, what are their underserved needs, right? You have to first of all understand the market well, which is the problem space. Then you move into the solution space, which is what kind of value proposition you need to build, how you have to see that, how you differentiate yourself from a competitor, what are the kind of feature sets that might really work that you again identify by doing some exhaustive user research, and then you translate those into certain user features. And then you try to test these out in this specific market to validate that, hey, these are the features that I thought will work for this product, and this product might work for this customer set. You kind of do a minimum viable test, and then you just follow these iterative steps, which I just mentioned you, right? You do all this to kind of reach there. Now, again, I won't leave you at the theory. I will explain you how it happens in certain firms in subsequent slides. But before that, it's an extremely cross-functional role, because at any given point in a day, I am touching upon with the product manager, I am working closely with the data scientist, I am working closely with the customer experience team, where obviously customers have a direct touch point. I am working with the sales teams because sales team have to go to the B2B. Now, if let's say your product is entirely B2C phase, then in that case, your sales team's role is more nuanced towards that. But if it's a B2B, then it is more nuanced towards accounts. So you will build a lot of collaterals for your sales team. They will then pitch it in front of the clients. They will get in the customers. You work with the marketing to create your inbound strategy. You work on multiple things. So when any given day for any given campaign, you're working with multiple stakeholders. So persuasion has to be there. I mean, again, I will touch upon what skill set you will need to build, but this comes out as a very central role for everything. So growth is not just marketing. It is, having a product thinking. It is having a sales mindset. It is about understanding your customer well, empathy, and then what are the kind of communication or messaging that you want to use as a marketing tool to position your product rightly to your certain segment, right? The philosophy is simple. If you can't measure something, you can't improve it. So metric driven approach is very central to growth marketing, right? So as I told you, product marketer takes different shapes in different parts of the product. If let's say you are a very new product, again, you're trying to do a launch typically. So you will take different responsibilities at different stages. So before the launch of the product, you will do a lot of market validations. You will try to understand how your buyer persona looks like. How can you position certain, how can you position your product in such a way that there is a differentiated value that is being created? How are you going to frame the message around that positioning for your target segment? What is going to be your go-to-market plan? How you look vis-a-vis your competition? These are the things that you will do rigorously before launch. And once you have done that, it is assumed that obviously, you will achieve a certain product market fit. Then you go into the launch phase, which essentially means that you will, if you are again a B2B phase, then in that case, there is a lot of sales enablement collaterals that you will have to, push it out to your sales teams. You will have to run a lot of channel specific campaigns, which means that you obviously have identified that which channels might be there where your customers might be interacting. So you will be running a lot of campaigns over there, and you will be doing a lot of training demos for your product for again your sales team, etc. So you will be doing a lot of things around launch. Post launch, I mean, once you have launched your product, then it is all about analyzing how your customer is really reacting to your product. Is your performance up to date? Are those features really working well? You will do quick test hypothesis just to drive it out. You will understand customer well from their feedbacks, testimonials via your customer experience team, which I just kind of touched upon over here in this block. And then you will try to sustain the buzz through a lot of campaigns that you do along with the marketing team. And and of course you will ensure your customer could be anyone. Your customer could be a B2C customer, he could be a B2B. If it is B2B, then you will again touch upon with your sales team, understanding that whether those collaterals or the sales enablement things are working fine or not, right? So a product marketer's role is very diverse. It changes its shape depending upon where the product is in the growth stage. And then accordingly, you try to anticipate your actions, right? So this is the way how it works. Now, there is one very core phenomenon which I told you earlier on, which is that retention is at the core of growth marketing, right? So the fundamental starts from this growth flywheel, which simply means that you try to attract a stranger onto your platform. You try to convert them into prospects. You engage them basically on the platform through different hacks, do multiple things. I will again touch upon a lot of examples, so you will get more clarity on this. And once they have engaged sufficiently, they obviously get into the delight phase where they actually refer more customers. I can give you one example at this stage itself. I guess many of you guys are using Facebook or WhatsApp, right? Now, there is a certain habit that has been formed, right? You guys are tempted to check your messages, or maybe if you guys are into Instagram or Snapchat, then maybe you guys are always checking that thing out. What essentially are you doing? You basically were attracted initially, then there was certain hooks in those specific apps, which were like filters in case of Amazon or some stories in case of TikTok. Some of those things hooked you, right? And you were engaged and you came back again and again. But there was certain such viral contents out there that it actually delighted you, which actually make you share those stories with your friends, with your family and all. What essentially you're doing, you're actually promoting the platform. When you say that, hey, look at that cool video on YouTube, what are you trying to do? You're not trying to tell them that there is a cool video out there. In an underlying way, you're just telling that, hey, go to YouTube, right? So that's what you are trying to do. So this is the basic tenet of a growth flywheel, that your existing customers are attracting your new customers, which is a very powerful way of attracting, getting new acquisition at a lower cost. So this is something which becomes a very, very core phenomenon to a growth flywheel. But there is another school of thought of growth growth marketing, which is a funnel view. So essentially, we hear what you say, that we divide every customer into different life stages of the customer, which you might have heard the term in your marketing sessions in your college as well, customer lifetime value, right? So a customer lifetime value has got these 5 stages. Of course, after retention, it could be a churn. Churn can happen at any stage, by the way. Even if you acquire a customer, the customer can go away. Like, so for example, let's say you have installed the app. The person, let's say, first of all, he saw the message and he ignored it. That's a I won't consider it as churn, but let's say the customer has installed the app and uninstalled it. So churn is happening right at stage 2 itself, which is activation. So what are these stages? Acquisition, simply again, how do you get the new users in? Activation, now a person from acquisition to activation moves. I'll just take one example. Let's say you have newly installed Facebook, right? Now, what is that activation stage? Activation means that the first intervention of the app to take the user to that aha moment. What is that aha moment for Facebook? Aha moment for Facebook was for you to add 10 of your friends in 7 days. Why it used that mathematics? Because they felt that if you are able to add 10 of your friends in 7 days, then there is a small community play that you are bringing in, and now you will be able to appreciate the certain features of the app, which is to share the stories, to maybe do some messaging on the messenger, so on and so forth. So getting them to the core value of the product fast is the job at activation stage. If the app is able to do it well, then the customer moves to the next stage, which is retention, which means that if the customer has identified the value or the aha moment in the first step itself, the customer is bound to come back. Think about yourself only. Once you had added those friends, you were tempted to come back to the platform again, right? So basically what essentially happens is, now there are other ways in which you get on to Facebook, right? How do you get back? Like, if there are certain birthdays of your friends who are falling in, and let's say you get that message, you're tempted to kind of wish them, and you get that notification, you go back into the app, right? So that happens in the retention stage. How do you get those users back onto your platform as quickly as you can, right? And once the user reach at this stage, the next stage is obviously that, okay, now since the user is sufficiently coming to your platform, so obviously he must be finding some value, and possibly he could be the guy who could refer this particular app or website to any of his friends, or the product to any of his friends. So are they really recommending your products to others is what we check at the referral stage. And then obviously you look at that, what is the mode in which I can earn out of this customer? Can this be converted to a paid customer, or can I earn it via, let's say, advertisements or something of that sort, right? So there are different models of paid typically, and different companies work in a very different way. There are freemium models like Spotify, Netflix does that. There are ad models like Google or Facebook, they work on that. So similarly there are many subscription models as well, right? So just to try to cut a lot of theory for you guys, I'm going to take 5 examples of the live companies around different stages of the funnel, just to tell you that how these stages are measured in different metrics terms. So I have just given this overview slide to tell you that at each and every step you are measuring different metrics. So let's say, again, I'll take an example of Facebook. If you have installed it for the first time, then the metrics at the acquisition stage that I will be looking at is how many installs happened, or how many Play Store or App Store visits happened for that. So what essentially you're doing, you're trying to, let's say, when you're trying to get new customers in, you might have utilized different channels. From those channels, how many people landed onto the Play Store or the App Store, and how many people ultimately ended up installing the app. These are the things which you measure at the metric stage for acquisition in case of app. Obviously, in case of web, it will be around how many visits happened, what are the kind of, different channels that you used, organic, paid, etc., to get those customers in, right? At the activation stage, as I told you, it is to quickly take the customers to that aha moment. So basically, it is all about how seamless onboarding you give to the customer. If the customer comes to your app and you give a very shitty onboarding, then I'm very sure the customer is going to uninstall the app right away. Might have happened with multiple of you guys as well. Like if you have installed the app and you see that it is broken every single time or it is crashing every single time, the next thing which you do is uninstall it, right? So at activation stage becomes very critical because you are establishing trust with the customer. Customer is establishing trust with your platform rather. Uh, at this stage, you look at how much time he spent on your app or how much time he spent on your website. So you look at metrics of screens per session, what is his 1-day retention, how many registrations happened, like did he give his details, etc., so on and so forth. A lot of onboarding details, right? At the retention stage, you are now looking at more proactive communication with these guys. You are looking at that how I can make them engage with the platform. So the metrics that you look at is that 1-day retention, 7-day retention, 15-day, 30 days. So that end-day retention is basically you try to check that how frequently is this person engaging with your product and what you can do to make him engage more. So you do a lot of things around there, right? Similarly, at the referral stage, you look at how many referrals were done, what is the social buzz that the people who are already on your app are trying to do with their folks. At the revenue stage, you look at average revenue per user. You look at how I can get this customer to move to the paid. So you look at the metrics of customer lifetime value. You look at ad revenue, so on and so forth, right? So across these stages, I'm going to take these 5 examples in the next few slides. So now let me just start with Airbnb. Airbnb, I think many of you must be aware that they have recently concluded their IPO. They were in losses for last 2 or 3 quarters post-COVID, because COVID took a great deal of hit on their business, but they did a marvelous pivot to very localized sort of listings and hostings. In that way, they were able to have a positive bottom line in this quarter, which actually enabled them to go for the IPO. They were actually going for the IPO last year itself, but again, because of the pandemic, things got shifted for them. So again, a quite one of the companies which I really like to give examples from the acquisition perspective, because they were the pioneers in terms of introducing engineering into marketing. I mean, that's where this was a very, very unique hack that was used way back in 2012. So a quick fact check. I mean, they are present in almost virtually all countries of the world, except 4 where the embargo restrictions are there. But they have roughly around 0.65 million hosts, 150 million active users, and 1.6 million listings. It's like a massive scale they are operating on. But behind this massive scale, there were some very cool, clever hacks that they used. So Airbnb's users journey or funnel can be classified into these 5 simple steps, where they try to identify who could be the potential user, which they identify in terms of dividing them into different user personas, and then they try to utilize different channels to acquire them onto their app or website. And onboarding simply means that they are filling in all the details, getting to the point, which is to identify the listings where they really want to go. Once they do the booking, that's where the digital leg stops, the physical legs kicks in, because obviously the guest has to travel to that location physically, and once he goes over there, he returns and shares some feedback that goes onto the website or the app, which you see in terms of reviews and ratings, which again forms a part of the hack. So this is the whole funnel of Airbnb that it looks like. But what in the earlier days, I mean, it's called as breakfast, right? Bed and breakfast, sorry. So what Airbnb did in initial few days, they tried to go to a lot of conferences to identify hosts, because let's face it, Airbnb is a marketplace model. On one side you have hosts, on the other side you have guests or visitors. So for them, the ideal visitor is basically, or basically if I have to say a super user for Airbnb, is basically a world citizen who basically consider that every city is kind of his home and he just want a homely feeling, right? That is the kind of fundamental that they had in mind, if somebody has to really go with that mindset. Because what they identified was the problem that not everyone is keen to stay in those posh hotels, even if they are like the business travelers. They might want to stay in some sort of a homely kind of a place. So they started with one mattress and like a very, very humble beginning in a way. So they went to a lot of conferences. They tried convincing folks around joining on their platform, but that was giving them a very subscale. Of course, they were able to identify that there is a market. So obviously they hit that product market fit. Now it was time to scale. So they have to identify the hack to scale. So what was the hack? The hack was pretty simple. There were two hacks basically. Many of you might be aware of this platform called as Craigslist. Craigslist is basically the classifieds or yellow pages of US, where they list everything and anything that people have to sell or buy. And the mechanism to sell or buy is simple, that people who have to post a certain requirement, there is a certain, there are a lot of fields that they have to fill in, category, name, whatever they have to sell, so on and so forth. And they hit submit, it gets listed. That's the simplest Craigslist platform. If you look at it, it's a very simple interface. At that point in time, there was no concept of open APIs from Craigslist typically to do any integration with Airbnb. Now, this is a very, very engineering specific problem. Now, what is API? I mean, like, if many of you are not aware, I'll take a very simple example. If you go to any restaurants and you order the food to a waiter, let's say, and that waiter goes to the kitchen, he takes the food and comes back to you. So essentially, this waiter is the API. He is trying to, take your order to the kitchen and get the food to you, right? So API basically what it does is it processes the information between two systems, and that's where the integration happens. Craigslist has no such thing at that point in time, although we saw the REST APIs and things coming in later on. But again, let me just spare the technical terms here. So what Airbnb did, Airbnb reverse engineered the entire Craigslist platform to the extent that they were able to identify that what is that unique URL that the Craigslist has corresponding to a given listing. What it means is, let's say you are a person who has to list his hostings on Craigslist, because till that point in time there was no Airbnb, right? So they were listing everything on Craigslist. So they were aware that Airbnb was aware that one of the platforms which has the closest correlation with their offerings is this platform, and they can find a lot of their target segments on the host side on this particular platform. So when they identified that there is this unique URL that they could snag out of this particular platform, what they did was they sent out this auto emailer, which you see on the right hand side, which is basically they post those customers in. So people who were listing properties on Craigslist were getting these kind of emails that, hey, I'm emailing you this because you might want to put this offering on Airbnb because this is something very cool, so on and so forth. So they were kind of poaching it, and they were using a lot of different tactics apart from this email. I just kind of gave this as an example. There was another thing what they did. The people who were actually now listing on Airbnb, they actually using that same URL, they were able to post on Craigslist automatically. And this was all happening without Craigslist knowing that anything of this sort is there. So this was the beauty of this hack. What it did to Airbnb by the time, I mean, it took 3 to 4 years for Craigslist to realize there was something happening fishy on their platform. But by the time it was already too late, and Airbnb was already grown 11 times. This was one of the marvelous hacks and acquisition which I could consider, and that's where we consider these are very ingenious hacks. It is not something which is illegal, because again it was more of a machine automation that they did, and they were able to identify that. I mean, there was no lawsuits, etc., that were fine, because but what Craigslist did after that was they actually tried to include more security measures so that nobody can reverse engineer their entire platform. But yes, this was one ingenious hack at acquisition. I mean, there are many other ways in which people try to acquire users through different other channels and all. Being a growth marketer, I am a strong proponent of using the current user base to bring new users typically in the platform, which I'll talk in the later stage of this funnel example. I'll take another example of activation. Now, I told you some time back, activation simply means that taking user to that aha moment first. Now, in case of Airbnb, what could be that aha moment? The aha moment could be that a user is able to find some really brilliant property which he wants at a very cheap rate, let's say, because obviously that's what their position was, that they are providing rentals which are somewhat affordable and pretty as well, right? Now, the problem was that at that point in time, there were no such beautiful photographs which you see today on Airbnb. So what was happening that while they were having a lot of listings, but people will just come to the websites and they won't pay, because see, I mean, imagine you have to book, let's say, maybe a Sheraton or maybe a Hilton hotel, and you are not shown the pictures of the room, and then you are asked that you have to pay 16,000 for a day. you will be like, why will I pay? I mean, like, I really don't know what kind of room they might give me. They can give me just one sort of a storeroom kind of a room. What, and I might end up being I might be cheated on that, right? So exactly this is the problem what Airbnb's hosts were facing. And so their hypothesis was that users are not paying because they're not able to see what they're signing up for, right? So what they did, they launched this Airbnb photography program where they actually employed freelance photographers, not any professional ones because that would have costed them a bomb, but they employed these across 6 continents, and they took some very professional photographs of all the 13K listings at that point in time. What it resulted in was there was a 2 times increase in bookings for a given host. So essentially what happened at this stage was that they were able to build trust with the user, take them to that aha moment very quickly, which is that listing, etc. And they were able to, get that result in terms of growth, right? So now I'll talk about an example which is, very, close to me as well. And I thought, it would be a very relevant example in terms of retention. Now, when a user has crossed the stage of activation and he has, now felt that, okay, he's getting some value, obviously he would want to come back. Just I took the example of Facebook. This is one example which actually, where I say that my habit built with this app. Why? Because I also like to learn languages, right? So I was learning the German language, and they use some very beautiful gamification in their app to really, keep you hooked. So in this right image, you can see that there are different stages for learning that language German, where you start from basics, you go to other specific modules. But in each and every stage, there are 5 different modules. So when you complete all the 5 modules, you can complete one and can move ahead. But if you will complete all, you will get this golden completion level, or golden egg, typically what we say. Now you will move ahead in the levels accordingly, right? Now what I did, I actually I was kind of pretty excited earlier on. I actually completed almost 7-8 levels, and it took me around like in aggregate around 20 hours. But after that, I kind of lost interest. I was like, okay, I'm done with this. So, but after 4th day, I got this message on the left, which was obviously for German, not French. I mean, this is I just took out of a sad owl, which is basically the mascot of them, that we haven't seen you in a while. Similarly, I got this notification that, hey, would you like to, try learning German again, and so on and so forth. What they also did, as you can see in the right image, there was this 4th module, which you can see it's broken, right? So what they did, they regressed my level by 1 level up. So what essentially they were doing, they were trying to use the Zeigarnik effect, which is basically one of the marketing psychology tool, which is used. I mean, it was introduced by Sigmund Freud at that point in time. But what it means is that people tend to pay more weight to the incomplete tasks than the complete tasks. I mean, if you have completed something, you are like, okay, but if something which is incomplete, that will always linger in your mind. That is something which is used brilliantly at this stage. So I ignored it. I was like, okay, I really don't want to learn again. I have learned it sufficiently. So then the second message came that, hey, why don't you just try out this XYZ level and so on and so forth. So I again ignored it. Then they actually hit me right in my feels, and they just simply told me that, hey, your leadership position has been taken over by Fred. Would you like to, come back? And that was something which was very much enticing to me. I had to regain my position 1. I mean, Fred was trading at around 350 points, and then he regained, and somehow he burned the midnight oil to reach to 765. He toppled me down, but I was like, okay, I'm very competitive. I want to really go for a comeback. So I came back to the app. Now imagine there are millions of such customers who are coming with different hooks back to the app, and they're completing this again and again. So what essentially is happening is that some of those hacks that are building the habits of the customer happen at this stage, at the retention stage. So this was one example to show you that how retention, what are the things that happen, and then you track it in metrics in terms of that, what is that daily retention rate, what is that 7 weekly, bi-weekly, monthly retentions, and that's where you move on to the next stage, which is the referral stage. Now, in the referral stage, there are a couple of companies which were the pioneers in this step, which were PayPal and Dropbox. So referral is the stage where actually you have now built that comfort with the product to a level that you now are able to talk about it to your friends directly or indirectly. Just like I gave you example of YouTube. Like if you find something very interesting or funny video, you might want to share it with your friends, but indirectly you are marketing YouTube, right? So what? But in the referral scenario, what happens is that since your engagement level is already very high, um, the people who will come via this channel will be more sticky to your platform. Why? Because there is an element of word of mouth which is there, which also leads to virality, right? So, but there are many firms today which actually use referral in different contexts, and they all, I mean, it's a very tepid way of going with things, right? But Dropbox was one such firm which actually utilized it to grow its user base by around 3900% in just 15 months. So they use certain steps which actually differentiated their referral process from the rest. So what did they do? Once the user is onboarding, let's say the user who's new on Dropbox, there are only 3 steps which are visible to that person right at the time when he has entered this platform. On the third stage itself, it actually prompts that do you want to refer it to your friends? The communication is very much centric around the friends and family. So it's a very benevolent kind of a communication, not something very centric to the user, but somebody who is linked to that user. So that was a step one that they did. The step two was to keep that transparency on. What do I mean by that? If let's say you have referred Dropbox to 10 of your friends, then you should be able to know that what happened with those links. I mean, did those people even go ahead and claim that particular reward or not? Because it's a two-way reward, right? I mean, you also get something, your friends also get something if you utilize that link. So Dropbox gave you that dashboard where you could live track that what is how many people actually ended up claiming that specific reward, and how that was visible on that specific piece. Third was that they made this process of sharing itself very easy with your friends. So as you can see that in this particular image, that there are more ways to invite your friends. You invite via email, copy link, or share Facebook, right? This looks very common today, but they started this way back in 2013. So today you see a lot many other host of social sharing modes via WhatsApp, via Teams, and all that. So these 3-4 steps, when you combine, then the referral program is very strong, because then there is a very strong incentive for a customer to really sell this particular thing to his friends or family. Otherwise, it is lost in translation. So that was one example around referral. Around revenue, again, if a person who has been finding the value on your platform and has been there for pretty much a longer duration, now you want that how you can quickly make money out of this user. Many platforms which are social sharing platforms use the ad route. So generally, they don't really charge the customer, but they then show them certain ads. Or somebody take a route around some sort of a freemium approach where you kind of can test out the platform, take them to the subscription, but they can just test that product, and then maybe it will be chargeable after a month. There is one very specific and of course people are brought they're sold different plans at this stage in a very different way. I mean, depending upon how that cohort has interacted with your app or website, they are all targeted in a very differential way. One example to take you is I will be taking off is MailChimp's. What MailChimp did was, I mean, which is a very standard example in terms of many of your newspaper subscriptions which are sold online. They use two marketing principles very closely, which is the anchoring effect and the decoy effect. People who don't know both these effects, I'll tell you that anchoring effect is all about that your subsequent information is based upon the first piece of information you receive. You base your subsequent decisions basis that, right? Decoy effect simply means that when you have to, kind of sell something in this context, if I have to talk about, then you will try to make other options look redundant in front of it. So generally firms use the combination of these to entice users to purchase what they feel users should buy. In this case, MailChimp has made it very apparent by writing it as MailChimp recommends. What they actually did in addition was that they listed the pricing in a descending order, which is from the highest to the lowest. What they essentially also used was that if you look at a website, they identified that the user form a inverted L-shape navigation process, wherein people start from the left, move towards the right, right? So, so in that way, if you look at the anchoring effect, so the anchor is placed at 23,000, and subsequently you are seeing the lower price. So you are more prompted to buy the next plan, next set of plans rather. When you combine it with the decoy effect, what is a decoy in this case? Decoys are simple that you can see that the list of features are given more in case of the standard plan, right? Also, the pricing now looks very attractive as compared to your 23,000. Also, MailChimp has recommended it on the top of it. So there are 3 bombardments that are done already, and this is done through multiple channels. I mean, it is not like that everyone lands on a pricing page. They are on some other page, they are given some sort of a prompt, you go over here, right? So this is how they upgrade a user, I mean, from a free to a paid, by giving them this kind of a marketing psychology hack in a way, right? So now let me just come back to a point that how you guys can build a career into growth marketing. And typically what I see is that it requires 2 sets of skills. You require hard skills and you require soft skills. Now, in terms of soft skill, what it simply means is the first skill set is that you have to, embrace ambiguity. Why? Because you will be thrown into such kind of problems which you won't be having answers immediately, but yes, you have to have that problem solving mindset that will really help you structure your thoughts. So that will, get you rid of all the clutter that you have, and you will be able to reach to the point faster, right? The third skill, which is very important around here, is the prioritization skills. Now, what do I mean by that? At any given point in week, I, along with my team, am running around 150 campaigns, right? And that's not an easy task because, I mean, you have to then identify that, okay, which campaigns you have to focus maybe for this week, what you have to really think. So I generally follow a Pareto rule out there. But prioritization simply means that if you are not able to prioritize that what will go first, what you have to decide that what will go last and all that, then you will end up in a big mess, and you might not really enjoy the process. Also, as I told you, that it's a very interdisciplinary function. So collaboration is something which is a key to growth typically. Why? Because you're working extensively with all the departments, so you have to be very, very assertive. And hence your decision making skills and strategic thinking skills become complementary to that. You have to make sure, I mean, you cannot go tactics first. You have to make sure that there is a set strategy to what you do, and then you move backwards to the point that, okay, what do you want to do today so that you want to achieve something maybe a quarter down the line, right? And creativity, of course, is something which because you are trying to test out different hypotheses on your customer base, you want to be as creative as you can. Just like I took examples of certain companies, what Airbnb did, what Duolingo is doing, so on and so forth, right? There are certain hard skills that you guys would be needing. One of them, obviously, which is obvious, is that you need some very strong marketing skills. What I mean by that specifically is that you need to have a good awareness around all these channels. And by channels, I mean both paid as well as organic. So you should be knowing SEO, SEM, right? You should be knowing conversion rate optimization. What do I mean by that? It means that a lot of tactics that can help you optimize your conversions, which means people who are coming on your app or website, how you can make them convert to paid customers faster. That's the entire thing which comes under it. So there are a lot many things, lot many tools which come under that. Project management, as I told you, prioritization and project management, they go together. So you need to have that skill set very, very strong. In terms of your writing skills, of course, since you're selling that product, you have to sell it well, you have to convince your customers. So your copywriting, content, storytelling skills have to be on top. Around tech and business skills, because you will be handling some P&L, so you should be aware that how you will forecast the revenue for a given quarter, given year, financial year. So you should be aware of the balance sheet and all the fundamentals. From the technical aspect, since it's a very data-driven process, so you should be aware of how you can do data analytics on the user behavior in your app, website. you will do a lot of A/B testing. You will work along with the data science team to call out a lot of cohorts. In many firms, they actually appreciate that you have SQL skills as well, because they don't want a separate engineer to mine data for you, right? I mean, it varies from company to company, but it is something which is a good to have skill, not something which is a must have or a deal breaker in a way. So these are the skill sets which essentially will kind of help you, grow in this role. But I mean, I will conclude my session over here. And I generally, post a lot about product and growth on LinkedIn, and I have a newsletter, Growth Ninja, so you guys can follow both of them. And before concluding the session, I will give my recommendations around the books which can help you warm up around this concept of growth marketing. These are some of the most renowned folks in this particular field across the world. So this is something which will help you understand this in a much depth. And yeah, that's pretty much it from my end. And I'm happy to take any more questions from you guys. So I'm opening the floor for you. And I would request if you guys can just, turn on your videos as well.
Guys, if you have any questions, you can just unmute and ask. Lakshay, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, hi Ankit. Thank you for the very informative session. So my question is regarding big companies. So I understand that startups, because they're on tight budgets, growth hacking is a good option for them, because they first of all focus a lot on creativity, and then if they can get customer retention with that tight budgets, growth hacking is a great option for them. But how about bigger companies, especially for us MBA aspirants? We're all looking to working for big renowned names. How useful is growth hacking for them? And if it is so, should we also focus on developing these skills so that we are good assets for those big organizations?
It's a good question, Lakshay. So, see, I'll tell you something that now, even for the bigger organization, because I am working for one, so I can just give you that insight as well. For bigger organizations, it more than the budget. It's about ring fencing your customers plus getting more customers in who can become the advocates of your product, right? When I say about growth hacking, this is one way in which you get the customers in a very efficient way, in a very cost-effective way, right? I mean, even if you are, let's say, a startup which is on a shoestring budget, or even if you're a big firm which is sitting on plenty of crores to spend. See, there are two things. One we call it as brand marketing. Second is called as product marketing. Brand marketing is about strengthening the image of your brand or building the brand equity. But product marketing is all about when you are trying to create the demand of respective products. If let's say your product is already crossed that 0 to 1 stage, it is already from let's say 1 to 10 or 10 to 100 stage, then your principles of growth hacking change. But it is not that you don't need growth hacking, because you will need always, because you want to understand how you can add more value to your customers in a very iterative way, which is not possible in case of traditional marketing, because there is no way to measure, right? And today, firms are increasingly believing that everyone is moving towards a segment of one approach. Now, I'll take example of big firms only. Netflix and Spotify have reached that stage. They were startups at some point in time, but they are now pretty big firms across multiple nations and all. What they essentially do is they have a recommendation based algorithm where they try to give you recommendations of content basis your taste of music. They try to identify it and give you very, very personalized recommendations. Why you really love those platforms? Because you are getting something which is very relevant to you, right? Because those are the things that they are giving you as a part of that activation stage itself. So over there, the growth hacker, what they are trying to do is they're trying to give a very hyper personalized experience to the customer. So a role of a growth hacker transforms as you move from a certain stage of your product to another stage. If you are trying to build the awareness around your brand or solidifying that, in that case, you are more of a brand marketer and not a product marketer. A product marketer will focus solely and solely to grow the product and the revenue around it. These are two different things. Airtel has got multiple lines. I'll take example of Airtel. Airtel has got multiple lines of products. We have like 20 to 30 different types of products which are there. Each product has got a different life cycle, got a different customer lifetime value. Each has a different CAC, which is cost of acquiring customers, right? The approach to acquiring users itself is very different for each and every channel per se, right? So there are products which are in 0 to 1 stage, which we are launching. So fortunately, I also got a chance to launch a product from scratch, which is their marketplace product, which is coming out, pretty soon. The strategy to grow that particular product is very different. Why? Because I will now be focusing initially to build that product market fit first, and then move into the stage of scaling. But then I also had the product called Postpaid on the digital side, which was already an existing product. You guys know what Postpaid is, right? So what I was doing over there was simply trying to identify hacks, how to get more customers, how to upgrade them from one plan to another plan, what I can do to really, bundle, let's say, OTTs like Netflix, Amazon, and try to sell it out to them. So strategies are different to engage those kind of users. I hope, Lakshay, I'm able to answer your question.
Yes, Ankit, I got the point. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, you can unmute and ask the question if you have any.
I also know that some of you guys have quiz at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Somebody has put the question in chat.
Ankit, I have a question from a participant. I'll just tell it. So, are there things that one can passively or actively do to develop these skills over a period of time?
Yeah, I mean, see, that's what I'm saying, that the biggest advantage for you guys is that when you will be joining any firm, typically, nobody is expecting you to, have these skills right at day zero. I mean, like many of you will be coming in from, let's say, an engineering background, or maybe, even freshers for that matter. So nobody is really expecting you to, hit the ground running from day zero, right? These skills will be built over time only. My whole point to tell you is that if you end up choosing this as your career path, these skill sets will obviously help you out. Obviously, like whenever you will be joining any specific company, they will give you some sort of training, or they will, kind of help you settle down in that. Typically, big firms do that. Small firms also do that. So by telling you about all these products, typically what I was, all these skill sets, etc., was to tell you that these are the specific skill sets which will help you further your career. If you really enjoying this particular process, like let's say if I am talking about growth marketing, you need to have a very strong product mindset. Not necessarily you are coming from that background, but having this mindset will kind of help you flourish this career, because now you see that there are many firms which are into SaaS space, right? You think of any company, big company like Amazon, Flipkart, think of Facebook, Google, PayPal, any of these firms, they are all SaaS firms, right? They're different. They're some are platform based, some are specific products, but everything needs growth, right? There will be category managers, there will be different definitions altogether, but these skill sets are very core towards the growth. And I mean, of course, a category manager's role is a bit different, but as a growth manager, typically you're actually helping improve that product by keeping your ears close to the ground, by understanding what customers really feel about your product, and doing that on an iterative basis, right? So these skill sets will be developed over time, but it is something which you don't need to really fret about. I mean, these skill sets, even I developed over time only. I mean, like when I had moved from one role to another, there were a lot of things which I picked up. So it depends, like what is your appetite of learning and how much you want to learn. But combining all those skill set, you can become a very deadly growth manager, is what I can promise you. I can take one last question more.
Yeah.
I'll ask Vimal. So Ankit, can you hear me?
Yeah, who's this? Actually,
I'm Ananya.
Hey Ananya, hi.
Right. So my question was, what are the basic obstacles one can face in this industry, in this field, in growth marketing? What are the possible disadvantages of it, and how to tackle them?
Okay, I might need to understand, like, when you say obstacles, do you mean to say in terms of the daily work challenges or the skill or something related to the skill set? What is it that you exactly mean by that?
What I mean is basically if a company is opting for this strategy, what
Hmm.
are the drawbacks of it that can have an impact on the product or the brand?
In fact, there is no drawback as such because, I mean, first of all, you cannot grow a product if the product itself doesn't have a demand in the market. That's step one. So if any company is hiring a growth manager from a growth mindset that, like, you have to grow this product and I don't care whether this product is doing good, bad, ugly, whatever, then that's a wrong approach, first of all, to really take. Um, because a role of a growth marketer is more of an inbound marketer initially when you are trying to validate lot many things around the product itself. But let's say if a company really wants to grow fast, I mean, if they really want to grow, their revenue north, and a company, let's say in a 0 to 1 phase, they want to really move to one faster, they adopt this strategy to kind of do that. Apart from it, people who want to move into the mature stage, they want their customers to stick. They would want to utilize this as a strategy because any other form of marketing is not as close to the customer in terms of understanding them, in terms of giving them the right value typically, right? So this is something which is because it's very data driven, so you exactly know what your customer is doing at this point in time. It's a very real time kind of a feedback you get from your customers from different platforms altogether. So all you have to do is you have to just kind of analyze it, run certain campaigns, iterate, and move on. So that's where there is no, because that's why all companies have started approaching this, adopting this approach in their, in their growth charters typically, and hence it has become a very lucrative role. And as you will see that companies where the focus will be moving slowly towards product, you will see these roles coming in even more quantity in India typically. Right now, there is a rage about product marketing, typically in Silicon Valley, in Europe, in Singapore, Southeast Asia, Australia. Um, India recently, when the startup culture had come up, and even the pandemic when it hit, a lot of companies were forced to adopt that digital transformation, and hence a lot of companies are now taking this approach of growth because it gives quick results, it gives quick feedbacks to the product, and you are able to kind of go in a very iterative way.
And another thing,
Mm-hmm.
so would tracking customers so closely raise concerns about data privacy? Because since it's already been kind of an issue, and do you think in the future, if there are laws where they would ban such tracking of customer data, do you think that would affect the industry or the field here?
Okay. So, see, I mean, when we say customer data, I mean, like, there are two parts to it. One is the consensual data that has been taken from the customer. What we essentially mean by that is that, let's say, when you onboard yourself on an app, if you remember, there are some permissions that are asked to you. Can I access your gallery? Can I access your contacts? When you say yes or no to it, accordingly, you are moved into the app, and there are certain features which are restricted, certain features which are opened up to you, right? When there is a consent, when there is an explicit consent from the customer, it is assumed that that data is something which is accessible and companies can use it for their own respective marketing purposes. There are unethical ways as well, which means that somebody is scraping data out from somewhere and talking about it. Now, a lot many things have been happening recently as well. As you might be aware, Facebook also and Google also faced those kind of lawsuits in US, right? I mean, things have happened in that state, but when I talk about the consumer behavior, typically in the app, that is a very core tenet to growth marketing. Because I mean, and if you are depicting some behavior within the app or website, and you are trying to target that customer, then you are not really breaching any personal information per se. You're just trying to understand that what the behavior customer has shown. So for example, let's say you logged into Facebook today, but for next 5 days you were not logged in. But let's say I want you to come back to the platform. So possibly I will not tell you about the birthday of all your 8 friends on the 7th day, but maybe I'll tell you the birthday of one of your close friends. How will I identify whether that person is close to you? Because you have already fed that data into my systems. If you remember that when you give those friend list, you add everything, you kind of give out those relationships and everything, right? And obviously you like certain posts and all. So your behavior is already out there, right? So a growth marketer is what he's doing is they're constantly trying to understand the user behavior and try to help them take that next step basis whatever behavior they have shown. So that's where you tend to be hooked to these platforms, right? Why do you spend like hours on Instagram? Why do you spend your hours on YouTube and all? Because those platforms have created a certain habit. And how those habits were created? Because there was certain messaging that came out. Like, for example, in case of Netflix also, if I indulge in watching a lot of content around a certain genre, I might be getting some notification around that similar content in the next few days if I do not engage with the platform. So I am playing on the engaged user data, and hence there is no breach of trust over there. Breach of trust comes when the data is used in a very unsolicited way. That is where a lot of antitrust laws, different sort of lawsuits come into picture. But that's a very different game altogether. But here it is played in a very entirely different set. Hope I'm able to answer you in some way.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess that was it, Angad. This was certainly an insightful session. I'm sure all of us have enlightened with the different strategies that you shared about growth hacking. We would have loved to host you in campus, but thank you so much, Angad, and also thank you, Navkiran, for helping us organize this. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Have a good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.